Welcome to another episode of the Virginia Investor Podcast. Today's guest is Dario Cruz, who's done some flips, some wholesaling, but has found a niche in master leasing, midterm rentals, and some short-term rentals. Dario, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm honored to be here. Appreciate the invite. Yep.
I am excited to learn more about your background. We've known each other for a couple of years now. I see you at all the meetups, see you at all the events. I've heard some really cool stories of some transactions that you've done, so I'm excited to have you on this podcast. I want to get started like I do for everyone else about your background and upbringing, just so I can get to know you more as a person and as an investor and what your mindset is like going into the real estate portion. So where were you born? What was childhood like?
So I was born in Fairfax, Virginia. Grew up in a little apartment community called Coolmore. A little wild over there, that part of Fairfax. So I think around when I was like maybe 4, we then moved to Woodbridge.
Okay.
And so pretty much I'd say, the majority of my childhood was Woodbridge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What did your parents do for a living?
My dad at the time drove a milk truck for Fairfax County Public Schools and then got into other departments, grounds, carpentry, and ultimately ended his career in the HVAC department.
Gotcha.
For the county. And my mom worked for the county, Prince William County, she was, I think, an assistant teacher. So we went to the same school where my mom was teaching at when we were little. Yeah.
Were they raised in Virginia? Are they from Virginia?
No, actually, both of my parents are from Veracruz,
Okay.
Mexico, but they met here in Texas.
What was the story of leaving Mexico and then coming to America and meeting in Texas?
So for my dad, just pretty much opportunity. Came here with his family, and then actually my mom grew up in like a rough household, and so my grandma left with all the kids. I think her 5 siblings came to the U.S. kind of trying to escape that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's quite a story. So then they land in Texas. What brought them to Virginia?
You know what? My dad simply said, like, he knew a guy that was like, hey, there's work over here.
Had an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
And he said he actually ended up in Charlottesville.
Okay.
And back then, like 90 whatever, or maybe 80 something, he was like, where's the work at? 'Cause there's nothing out here.
Right.
Charlottesville's way different now. So he actually worked on a farm. I think he said he took care of dogs. I guess they were a dog breeder or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So then they're in Northern Virginia. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I got 2. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. 3 actually, yeah.
When you were growing up, more focused on sports, academics, getting in trouble, what was your childhood like?
Ooh. I think early on, like soccer was a big thing for my dad. Boxing was a huge thing for my dad. So he always tried to keep us busy. I just remember like outdoors. My mom had a thing where she's like, you can go out once and you can come inside once.
Yeah.
So they're like, lock the door. She even there was like a window close to ground level, and she would like hand us our food there. So she's like, my house has to stay clean. If you want to come inside, that's
Right.
it. So yeah, just outdoors like 24/7. Like
Just staying active.
Yeah, dusted on almost.
Did you play any sports?
Yeah, I played soccer.
You said soccer,
Yep,
boxing.
and then boxing.
Yeah, that's cool. How much did you box?
Just in middle school, some, because middle school was like where I really started like get real like rebellious. So my dad's like, all right, gotta beat you up a little bit to get you back in line.
Keep you in check.
Yeah, I think that like my dad really wanted that for me, but my mom was like, no, that's not happening. So my dad was huge into boxing. He has like pictures with like De La Hoya. And,
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So yeah, like I still enjoy like just shadow boxing and stuff.
Yeah.
Just keep up the health.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you said middle school you started rebelling. Like, did that have any major impact on you? Any lessons learned there? Or was it just normal, just childhood rebellion, and then you go off to high school?
Yeah, for sure. Lessons like, growing up as a kid, your parents tell you, don't hang out with the wrong crowd, and then you do it anyways. So I think even as adults, I think it's taught me to keep your circle tight, watch who you spend time with, because they have a lot of influence in you.
Yeah, for sure.
So it definitely had an impact on me for sure.
When you were in high school, were you focused on grades, going to a 4-year university, or going straight to work after that?
Definitely straight to work was my objective, right? Kind of by default. Like, I don't have like anyone in my family that like went to like university and stuff, so it really that wasn't really like a path for me, if you will. Yeah.
Your parents didn't push that on you to like go to college, or were they just like, just go get a job, make some money?
I don't think they pushed me either way. I know my dad always told me, he's like, you better study, you're gonna end up, doing something you don't want to do.
Right.
So for him, it was like, just make sure you don't limit yourself. I did end up going to community college actually for HVAC, so I went to some college, but it wasn't really like in my plans.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. You had mentioned at some point that you did have like an entrepreneurial bug early. Like, tell us about your business in middle school.
Oh, so my mom would always like prepare me like sandwiches to take to school, and like I gave some to my friends one time, and they're like, "Dude, it's really good." So I just decided to start selling them by the bite, like 25 cents a bite.
That's awesome.
And then like if it was like some heavy set kid, I'd be like, "No, dude, it's 50 cents for you," you know. And then my mom got a phone call from school, like, because it ended up to the point where like I started asking my mom to give me like 2 sandwiches and like 3, and my mom's like, "You're not eating 3 sandwiches. You're like this little kid, right? Skinny little kid." And then when she got the call from school, they were like, "Hey, your kid's selling sandwiches by the bite at lunch."
Yeah, that's
so
great.
yeah, so she realized why I was asking for 3 sandwiches a day.
Man, I might think that your mom probably should open up a sandwich shop. Like, if kids are paying for a quarter for a bite of a sandwich, like, you might have something there. It's pretty profitable.
Yeah, when she was saving up to apply for her citizenship test, she sold like burritos at construction sites and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, she cooks good. You know, it sells.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you went on to do like landscaping stuff, right? Like you wanted to continue to make money, have your own business, do landscaping. Did you ever, like, through high school, have a job with someone else, or was it just you creating your own work?
So yeah, I worked at Kohl's, a shoe department store. I worked at UPS. Those were like winter jobs because the landscaping would die off in the wintertime.
That makes sense.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
What did you learn about working for yourself? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Like, what?
I felt like a sense of pride, like whenever I'd buy like a piece of equipment or something with money I'd saved up, like that really pumped me up.
Right.
You know, I was 15 or something, so like obviously I gave some bad bids. So I realized it's like, well, when you screw up, you just gotta fix it yourself. There's no really backing out.
That's a good lesson to learn early on, because it's certainly applicable to real estate. Like, you buy something wrong or do a rehab project wrong or something like that, like, you're not necessarily just backing out and saying, "Sorry, I made a mistake."
Yeah.
You know?
Problem doesn't go away when you bury your head.
Yeah. So after you graduate high school, you go to a community college. I know that you got into HVAC. Was your community college intentionally leading you towards HVAC, or did you have other plans?
So my I guess first like real like career job in the HVAC industry, that company sent me to community college.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And that
Sweet.
college in Woodbridge, Nova, is the one that has like the HVAC program.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got a job with an HVAC company, and then they helped you with education.
Yeah.
That's sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what were you doing with that company?
I was delivering parts. So
Okay.
that's like the first like entry level position, and then you work yourself up to like apprenticeship, and then level 1.
Okay,
level,
got it. Was your ambition to like work yourself up that ladder until you're working on the units, and then eventually managing teams working on the units or something like that? Was that your ambition when you got into the industry?
At the time, like I really didn't have the goal of being like in management, but for sure, like for whatever reason in my mind, I was like, I want to be like a very competent tech, and like making 6 figures was like the benchmark for me at that time.
Yeah. So along that journey, what did it feel like? Was it everything you wanted it to be? Did you enjoy it? Did you appreciate it? I know you still do some work in that field, so I guess you have to enjoy and appreciate it to some extent, but like, what was that experience for you?
I guess it wasn't enjoyable all the time, but for me, it gives me appreciation for like anyone that's still like a blue collar, you know, like in the trenches, like, yeah. So I know what that's like, and I'm like, in my head, I know I've learned a craft that I always have something that I can do with, like that knowledge that I gained at that time. I think for me, what I learned from that is it all correlates to how much work you're willing to put in, how fast you learn, how fast you move up, and how valuable you can become to a company. It's just about the work that you put in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is your work ethic, but you have to have a good attitude too, right? Because you can have extremely hardworking people that aren't a good culture fit. So it sounds like you have both. Like, if you're able to get into that team and then work your way up on that team and then eventually manage teams, like, you're going to have a good attitude, you're going to be a good culture fit, and you're going to work very hard.
Yeah. Yep. But I've definitely had to work on, and I still continue to work on like my personality and my attitude, for sure. Yeah.
What are some challenges that you have with that?
I always default to like a negative mindset, or like stress, or even at work, people are like, hey, cheer up, because like when I get in my head, I my default mode is like that, right? Like just being angry and stuff. So like I try to I'm trying to shift and be more of like a positive person. Yeah.
You always come across as a positive person in all the interactions that we've had in the environment that we're in, and you're surrounded by great people. Why do you think you are so hard on yourself or negative? Does that come from maybe like other stressors, or maybe like you're just not confident that you're an awesome person and can figure it out or be successful?
Growing up, I didn't hear that, like, hey man, like, good job and stuff. So like, I feel like if I gave credit to myself for something, that I kind of slow down or let the foot off the gas. So I'm just like, I think that's what it stems from.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
The question is sort of hard for me to ask because I'm not a psychologist, obviously, but I'm interested in it because a lot of people who listen are building businesses and they have teammates and they have people they care about that may be too hard on themselves, or maybe they're going through the same thing themselves. And it's just helpful to just hear different perspectives of how people are feeling and why it might happen and stuff like that. And it's interesting that you are aware of that and willing to work on it. Years ago, I was working in a motorcycle shop and we had some phenomenal technicians that we worked with, a lot of old school guys that just knew everything blindfolded, around a motorcycle. They could fix it, but it was really interesting, like the different personalities you would see in the shop and how that affected the shop environment or themselves, where you just have these incredible people working, just acted differently. And you never really knew why, but you knew it stemmed from something. And it was like, the more as a leader, you could try to give them the confidence they needed or the respect or the appreciation that they needed to understand they were something special. It was really cool to have the opportunity to do that in some situations, but also very sad in a way where you see people that are absolutely awesome, that are crushing it, that make great decisions, that are taking care of their family and doing a lot of special things, that don't give themselves the credit for everything that they're accomplishing and doing. And you're like, man, if only they saw it, know? So it's cool that you're aware and you're at least like, I think being aware is most important. So when you are really hard on yourself, you're getting angry or frustrated or something like that, you can kind of like check back into like, hey man, I know this is something I got to work on. We're good to go. Outside of like HVAC world, when did you find out about like real estate investing and things like that?
So like I might have had one rental property. It just was like a bad experience. So to me, like it never even crossed my mind to like, have rentals or anything. I remember like trashing out that house with my dad on multiple occasions, like
Really?
like pulling out like 6 foot tall weed plants out the front yard garden and stuff. Like, so to me, I was like, I'm never doing this when but my dad would always send me like Bigger Pockets articles from like the forum or the blog. And so I would never read them.
You wouldn't?
No, like, cause I knew it said like Bigger Pockets real estate. I'm like, I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It's just like,
So you just thought it was all rentals, basically. Like probably in your head is like, it's either like real estate investing is rentals, and that's what Bigger Pockets is talking about, is just rentals. Like were you opened up to like flips, wholesaling, and all of, the master leasing and stuff like that?
No, I mean, I really like, flipping is like a pretty commonly known thing, but that didn't really like interest me. And so flips didn't interest me, and rentals definitely didn't interest me. So I was like, what else is there? I didn't know about wholesaling and,
for sure.
Arbitrage and all that. So, but eventually I did like open one up and I was like,
Yeah. He was persistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you remember the one you opened up or why you opened that up? Was there something where you're like, all right, I need to change, or I need to do something differently or something like that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like at that time I was more trying to work on myself. I was trying to invest in myself at the time. Like real estate wasn't even a thing yet. So I watched like this Robert Kiyosaki video,
Awesome.
like one of those like ones like, you're throwing your life away. And I'm like, let me watch this one, right? And he was talking about like investing was important because that's how you kind of like liberate yourself from, or have the freedom to do other things, right? If you want to.
Yeah.
That kind of connected. And for some reason that like brought to mind what my dad had been sending me. I was like, well, let me see what because Robert Kiyosaki was talking about real estate. So then I popped it open and it was like that Foursquare one from Brandon Turner.
Cash flow quadrant?
Yeah. No, it was a YouTube video from Brandon Turner, like one of the early ones where he kind of showed how to like analyze a rental property.
Okay.
So he called it like the Foursquare method or something like that.
Got it.
So it made sense to me that the way he explained it on a whiteboard. So I was like, maybe I can do this.
Yeah. Did you have any like self-limiting beliefs that I mean, I guess if your dad owned a rental, you probably thought it was accessible to like invest in real estate, but at your like, was there any like, I don't have enough capital, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough this or that? Like, were there any excuses, or were you just like, cool, let's just study this more and see where it takes us?
Oh, yeah, definitely plenty of limiting beliefs still to this day. I thought it was going to take me like 30 years to get to where I'm at right now at that time.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. And so like my first rental, I just saved up like 60 grand cash, like just working overtime and just, putting money away. And so, yeah, I definitely thought like by the time I was 60, I'd only have like a handful of rentals,
What your father sent you intrigued you. And I'm just assuming you continued down that path of research and like trying to learn more. And then did that lead you to a network of people, or did you just start doing deals before you really met people?
No, definitely like the whole analysis paralysis thing. So then I went to like networking. So I did like, I thought about it a long time before making that first purchase of that long-term rental. It took me a while to jump in.
And so you're researching, you're learning more, and then you go to your meetup. I assume, is it in Fredericksburg? Did you go to a Fredericksburg meetup?
Yeah, it was a Fred Ria. Yeah.
Cool. What happened at that meetup? Was it what you expected? Were the people what you expected? Were the conversations what you expected?
No, I just felt completely lost.
Really?
Yeah, because everything was like foreign to me. I think one of the first presentations I saw, I think it was actually Zoom. I think it was like during COVID or something. I can't remember anymore. But it was actually Rick Thompson was talking about like a Burr method on a deal he did in New York, and I was just like totally lost, right, in outer space. I was like, how does that even work? You know? So that was what my first kind of experience with a meetup was.
So it was a Zoom. That kind of kills it too, because I'm like, you get tons of great information. It's great. We're all used to it now, but like the benefit of the meetup is clearly meeting the people, right? And meeting them in person, having just normal one-to-one conversations, right? And so you were kind of stripped of that if it was during COVID. Then you go to the meetup, you don't get the benefit of like building your relationships and network, right?
Yeah.
You may be able to reach out to Rick Thompson, who's been on this podcast, but you may be able to reach out to him and like ask him questions or something, but you haven't met him in person, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be difficult. Like that's another very difficult time to get started. Great by way of real estate opportunity, but difficult by way of like needing to build relationships and build a network around you.
Yep.
How were you able to find your first deal?
I told my parents what I was, what I wanted to do. So they walk around a lot, like they go on strolls together. And so my dad sent me a picture of this property with like gutters full, had trees growing in them and grass all tall and stuff. So I think it was like I can't remember which website it was, like True People Search or something. I looked at the address, found the phone number of the owner, called him. We had a conversation. He was like, yeah, I want to sell it. And then just pretty much ghosted me for like a whole year. I just kept on calling, left a sticky note on the door, right? Sent letters, and just out of the blue, one time I called again, like a whole year later. He picks up. He's like, hey, man, sorry, I've been busy. I'm like, yeah, must be. Like, it's been a year, So he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm ready to sell. And I was like, whoa, just like out the gate.
Timing's everything,
yeah.
man. It's crazy.
And so we closed, a couple weeks later. So that's how I found it, right? That's how I found that first flip there in Woodbridge, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a flip. You flipped that one?
Yeah, so remember I told you, like, flip never really interested me?
Yeah.
But at the time I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to hold this thing, right? Because I don't have cash to keep it. That was my mindset back then. So at a meetup, I met another lady that was flipping properties, and I told her, I'm like, hey, I have this property under contract, but, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with it. She's like, I'll help you flip it, right? Mm-hmm. And so she helped me flip it. It was right when like the market was just like screaming hot, Mm-hmm. So it did give me, I would say at this point, like a false sense of what flipping actually is, because it sold so fast and everything just happened so fast.
Let's do this 100 more times.
Yeah. I mean, we listed it like at 5:15 and it sold like at 5:25 within like 48 hours. Yeah, so.
The good days.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So, but what it did is give you, it may have been like a somewhat of like a false confidence, I guess I don't know if that's the wrong word, but a false sense of like security within real estate investing, if that's your first deal, right?
Oh,
that's super successful.
Sure. Yeah.
I actually have a similar, like I told myself I was going to get into wholesaling, and it was hilarious. Like the first week I started marketing. I guess I wasn't really going to wholesale, but I was going to start doing my own marketing as opposed to relying on wholesalers and other relationships. And so I started marketing. The first week I put something out. Some guy was like, yeah, I'll sell you my house. And I like went there, called him and was like, hey, I'll buy it for this much. And he was like, all right. And then I went home, sent the offer. He signed it same day. I then called some friends. You probably know them, but I called them and said, hey, I got this under contract. Here's the amount I got it under contract. I don't have the time to do anything with it. I'll wholesale it to you. I'll sign it to you for X amount of money, right? And it was like $20,000 or $25,000 more than what was under contract, but I was like, I know it's still a good deal for you guys. And they were like, yeah, absolutely, it's a good deal. We'll take it. And so they signed the assignment like the next day. And I was like, this is 2 hours of work and I've just made $25,000. It closed like 2 weeks later. I got the check and everything. I was like, this is so easy.
Yeah.
And then I spent like the $25,000 in marketing before I got another deal. I kind of like laughed, and then I stopped the marketing because I was like, really, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it. Like, I didn't really have my phone by me the whole time. I was just like, I got other stuff to do. I was like, probably shouldn't be doing this, but I was spending the money anyway. Right when I turned off the marketing, someone comes up to me and goes, hey man, you should buy this house. And I was like, all right, cool. Bought a house. And I was like, sweet. So I just like, as soon as I stopped, right when I started, or as soon as I stopped, I was, started getting deals. But when I was marketing, it was like, just went dry. Anyway, so you got the first flip went really well. What is the story about an El Camino?
There was a 1970 El Camino. I still have pictures of it in the garage. And so when we first walked the property was like down to the studs because I guess it flooded.
Oh, wow.
And so I think the owner like spent the insurance money or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like down to the studs. But the dude was like, do you want it? And he's like, I'll sell it to you for like, I don't know, X amount. And I was like, no, all my money's going to buy this house.
Right.
So anyways, day of closing, he shows up and he has a title with him. And he's like, hey, I couldn't get anyone to come move that El Camino. He's like, do you want it? And I'm like, sure. So he signed it over, and then I sold it. Some guy came to like work on my septic tank at my house, and he was like, hey, how much you want for that El Camino? I was like, 11 grand is yours. Man, he didn't think twice. He like came that same day. And
That's
picked it up.
awesome.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
So yeah, it was a cool car. I never got to drive it or anything, but
you made some good money on it.
Yeah, that's all I was thinking about at that time. Yeah.
The construction aspect of this flip. Now you do have a partner in this. Like you have someone that is experienced that you're working with, and obviously you have some technical ability being in HVAC and stuff like that. Like you understand the mechanics of things, I assume. So did you have any issues with the construction, like any really unforeseen challenges or anything like that on this flip, or was it all pretty straightforward?
No, I mean, that one was pretty smooth sailing. I think that's why it was like you said, like a false positive, right? Because it's just like a super good first experience. So it's like, but in my mind, like I, surrounded by other experienced investors, I knew that was like not the norm, right? It just went really well just due to the circumstance. But it was a solid house. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. So, how long was it until that first wholesale that you got?
So it's interesting because remember, like I told you, like it took me forever to like take action.
Yeah.
But then that closing and the wholesale happened within the time span of 2 weeks, right? Both of those deals.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
I want to hear that story too. Tell us about that property, because that is one story that like I've heard a number of times people talk about, like this wholesale deal. So you've done a flip. It was a successful flip after a year or years of not really taking action. I mean, it took you were taking action for the year trying to get in touch with the seller of the flip, right? So you were taking some action, but before that, a lot of non-action. You start taking action, and then you get this other deal that you end up wholesaling. And so your first flip is an absolute success. What is the story behind this wholesale deal?
So at that time, I started doing postcards, and I didn't know how to close, right? So in hindsight, I had some good opportunities. I just didn't know how to like navigate a conversation, and but that one I started text blasting. I joined Chris Jefferson's wholesaling coaching program, and I started text blasting. And so I was asking people like, where should I market, right? And a ton of them were like doing this Richmond area, right? I can't remember the guy's name. That was kind of like my mentor within the group. And I was like, what about where I'm from, Stafford County? He's like, I don't know. He's like, it's it's pretty sleepy out there. I was like, well, I'm gonna just do it, right?
Spot.
Yeah. So text blasting. I had like one part-time VA that was like a lead manager, and so I was the one like following up and closing, or I hadn't closed anything, but I was the closer, right? And so I called on this lead. And the guy's like, look, he's like, if you can close on this in 10 days, he's like, I'll give it to you for X amount, right? He's like, old, I want to travel the world. And he's like, and I don't want this problem anymore. And it had like a homemade skylight in the house, if you know what I'm saying. It just had like a huge hole in the roof. So it was a pretty beat up house. Anyway, so I ran that by another investor that was wholesaling at the time. And he's like, you need to get that under contract like ASAP. Right, because I wasn't quite confident yet. I'm like, is this really a deal? And so I got on a contract, and I think like in maybe 3 or 4 days, I assigned it to another investor for $70K above what I had under contract.
That's insane.
So my first wholesale $70K assignment, again, it's like gave me like, like just like you said, right? I'm like, whoa, man, like I'm done, right?
And it's 2 weeks apart, like
yeah. So, but then comes the lull after, the successes, right?
At least you got some capital through that lull. But
yeah,
at this point, when you're doing the wholesaling, you'd mentioned like you had talked to this lady at a meetup. You're going to these meetups. Are you now in person, like being able to meet people in person, like building your network and relationships at this point?
Yeah, yep. I can't even remember why it was on Zoom. I can't say if for sure it was during COVID, but I don't know.
But for some reason it was on Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I know you have a good network. So like it's especially since I've known you, like we've been in a lot of the same circles and stuff like that. But so at this point when you're doing these transactions, you have people to talk to. You can run your numbers by some of these people and kind of get some advice and make sure you're making good decisions. So you you get it under contract, and then you decide that it would still be a good deal for investors at 70,000 higher. Mm-hmm. That's insane. And then you were able to close in 10 days or less, right? Mm-hmm. Man, that's awesome.
What that other investor told me, because I got some no's, right? And I was like, man, did I just get a bad deal under contract? And he's like, that deal is for someone, not for everyone.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So, found the right buyer, and he made money, and we all made money, and the seller went and traveled the world, right? So
good point. That like just because you don't want it doesn't mean someone else doesn't want it. It may be a great fit or fit someone else's specialty or need or something. You just that's why you want to have a good network. You want to find that person that really wants that type of house or property or land or whatever it is, or that has a specialty in it. There's been people in my network, he's been on the podcast too, but one of the earlier podcasts, he would find like old dilapidated schools. And it's like just horrible, because then you're working with the government and you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But he had the team in place and the knowledge and the expertise to go to these like terrible situations where like municipalities had no idea what to do with these projects. Like they couldn't give them away for free. And then so he would then negotiate these grants and stuff like. But the point is that for the right person, someone can do something with it, assuming the price is right in an accurate range. So you had the network to find the right person for this deal. Getting out of that deal, you must have been on top of the world, obviously. Did all that money go to like marketing and you were like, let's just blow this thing up? Or were you very conservative with it and just try to like conservatively find the next deal?
So I actually gave half of that to the investor, the other wholesaler that helped me find the end buyer. So
Sweet.
And then I think around that time I stopped the postcards, I stopped the text blasting. Like you said, right? I was winding things down when that deal came around. Kind of funny. But then from there I was like, all right, so like I didn't quite enjoy the wholesaling, to be honest. Yeah. So I wasn't sure if I just wanted to keep that machine going. And after that was when I started doing the arbitrage after those two deals. Yeah.
So what opened you up to that?
Here in Richmond at the Dealmaker event.
Of course.
Yeah.
Do you remember what year it was?
I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember. But Al Williamson was there offering coaching programs and explained the arbitrage.
I think I saw the same presentation you're talking about, and I think it was so attractive and well done that like a lot of people after that are so set in doing well in their own lanes. We're like, let's all do arbitrage. I remember I won't say his name. There was someone came up to me who was very well in their niche, had no business being anywhere else, was then like, I'm going to start this. And I was like, think about it. Like, just give it a few days after Dealmaker to see if you want to do this, right? Shiny objects. But it was a really well put together presentation. It was very attractive with the money that you can make when you do that. And if you do it right, it can be awesome.
Yeah.
And so you saw this presentation and you jumped on it, or at least the idea, and started learning more about it, and then decided to go that route.
Yeah, I jumped on it, but again, it's like it took me like a whole year to get the first arbitrage deal.
What was the challenge you were having? So we'll explain this. I typically don't go like super into detail because people can Google this stuff. But when we're talking about arbitrage, we're talking about master leasing rentals, essentially. So like you can go, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can go find a quad, and you can find 1 or 2 units or all 4 units in a quad and sign a lease with the understanding that you've told the landlord that you plan to rent this out as a midterm or short term or whatever your strategy is, and you're paying the landlord the rent that they want, maybe sometimes even a little bit more to allow you to do this. Or I've seen some places where they actually like have a profit split agreement or anything like that. But you're basically paying the landlord rent, the property owner. You're paying them the rent. It's consistent. It could be multiple years, whatever. And then when you are able to get a midterm or a short-term tenant in that unit, you are making a lot of cash above, in theory, a lot of cash above what the base rent is if your occupancy is good and your operation is run well and your cleaning team is on point and all that. So it's a little business that you're basically taking the expense of the rent, but you can make a lot of money on top of that, and you keep that money, share whatever you do with your business. But that's the business we're talking about.
Yes.
So you don't have to buy the property itself. You can help the landlords by renting their spot, but then also run your business out of there with their understanding, run that business out of those properties.
Yep.
Awesome.
Correct.
And so you've chose to do this mostly with midterm, which I, again, am assuming it's like people talk about traveling nurses or some sort of like traveling profession would be like a 4 to 6 month lease. And then you have short term, which would be more of like an Airbnb style. You have a small amount of short term arbitrage buildings, units that you're working on. What did I screw up in that?
I would say that what you touched on as far as like the go-to when someone thinks about like midterm rentals is the travel nurses, but that's it's such a broad client base that midterm rentals serves. Right now we have a couple single family homes that we've furnished and are leasing out to like construction companies that have crews coming into town. So it's like, Richmond has a bunch of projects everywhere.
Data centers, like those teams are coming in.
You name it. So that's a huge need. There's relocations from when people get displaced when their house burns, floods, whatever. Families that need a whole house. So but we definitely started heavy with the travel nurses because we do have a level 2 hospital in our area, and we've hyper focused on like 1 and 2 bedroom properties at the time. So it really lends itself to that type of traveling workforce. Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge you had when you started to get into it and you're talking to landlords and trying to convince them to let you do this operation out of the rental? You said it took you about a year after that presentation gets started. Was that paralysis analysis, or like you needed to learn more, or was it you jumped straight into trying to do it? It just took you a while to like get that first one.
I think it was one, like being like essentially nobody. They're like, who are you and you're trying to do what? Like it was like a foreign thing. I guess I didn't do a good job of explaining like what I was trying to do. I would like fumble on it, so it sounded like I can only imagine someone being on the other end of the phone. They're like, what is this guy trying to explain to me? Yeah. And then since I've always had a job, and I still do to this day, during that time I had like limited hours that I could dedicate to it. Once I learned that I could leverage an agent that could make those calls for me, and then they get paid on leasing up units too. So then once I did that, I really changed it for me. That's when I don't outbound to get new arbitrage units anymore. But that was the challenge at the time. So once I like kind of dialed in my elevator pitch, if you will, and found the way that I wanted to get arbitrage deals is when things started moving.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it makes a lot of sense. Like when it doesn't just roll off your tongue naturally, it's very hard for people to have confidence in what you're saying or to even just understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
That was like, I immediately think I had a pretty in-depth discussion with a CPA the other day. And he had told me all these different things, right? And he was just explaining all these things that I then need to relay to a client or two that we manage. And I was like, all right, so I should say like, and I started repeating it. And he was like, no, dude, like just no, like that doesn't make any sense. Say this. And I was just like, wait, all right, so this. And I tried to say it again. He was like, do you just want me to talk to the client? I was like, maybe. I was like, it might be helpful because like how he says it is super confident. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And I'm just trying to translate some like foreign language, like, because what we were talking about was very complex. And I was just like, okay, I'll try. And then if I need your help, then I'll just get you on a call. And I have no super humble. It's all right. I'm not the best at everything, but that's why I have really good people on my team so they can come in and help us run a good operation. But it was a new concept that we were discussing, and I was not familiar with it. It was something that would benefit one of our clients, and I was not good at explaining it. But I could imagine he's been a CPA for however many decades. He's probably said it quite a few times, right? So it was way more confident, way more well said. So you figure out how to get it rolling off your tongue. You are able to give that pitch a little bit better. And then you're able to, you built a pretty substantial portfolio of short-term and midterm rentals. What does your team look like to operate those things?
So I have 2 full-time VAs, 2 handymen. One of them is more like a GC. He does more of like the heavy stuff for us. 3 cleaners. Obviously, my wife helps a ton in the business, and the kids do too. They're always rolling around with her, taking care of stuff. So that's our team in a nutshell. Small team, and just keeps the ball rolling.
What do you have your VAs doing?
They do more like admin type things. They follow up on leads. They communicate with guests. They coordinate maintenance. They make sure like if there's any cleaning issues, check cameras.
Awesome.
All the little things that I used to do myself that took up a lot of my bandwidth, or that I was able to do myself when we were smaller. I realized that if I wanted to keep growing, there's no way I could continue to do that and be effective.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How did you find the VAs?
So I actually hired someone to first build out the systems.
Smart.
Yeah, because I had hired VAs before. I had no systems in place, and they were just like, so what do I do? And I'm just like, just do the thing. And they're like, what thing? So built that out first. And then he actually created like a Google Doc where we put it up on onlinejobs.ph, right? And so it was a series of questions, and then we took that, filtered it through ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT chose like the top, 5 candidates, and then we would do first round interviews with just messages, right? Because a lot of what they would be doing is messaging with guests anyway. Right. So we wanted to see the effectiveness of them messaging. Yeah. So if we felt like they handled those conversations well through messaging, we then moved on to the second round interview, which was in person. Awesome. So I ultimately, out of like 100 applicants, only in person interviewed maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's very effective. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Because you get blown up on those sites. Like you'll get a ton of people who apply, and a lot of actually pretty qualified candidates. Like you can find some pretty good some good teammates on that website.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, vetting them is critical. But if you do it right, the end result is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like just great, outstanding people. You mentioned your wife works in the business a little bit. Do you guys operate similarly in business, or do you have very defined and specific roles to make sure it doesn't impact the relationship?
So those roles just kind of laid themselves out on their own, but I also had to learn to stay in my lane, right?
Yeah.
Because as a business owner, like I want to have my hands in everything, and like I realized A, I'm not good at everything, and B, like I should just stay in my lane.
Yeah.
So like my wife essentially, she takes care of most of like I call it like the cutesy stuff, right? Yeah. So she's very hospitable, so she makes she makes sure the property looks good. It has like the odds and ends that people need. She used to clean them when we first started out, and then I knew early on like that was just not sustainable, because she also homeschools our 3 kids and does everything else that like a mom does, Yeah. So she was cleaning them at first, and so now she manages the cleaners.
Got it.
So those are like her 2 primary roles, and yeah.
When did you meet your wife?
I was 19. 19.
Just after high school, and you were working in HVAC.
Yeah.
Okay. How did she feel when you wanted to get into real estate and start investing? Was she very supportive? Was there any hesitation or concern?
She's very level-headed, and she has like a lot of trust in me, more trust than I have in myself. So she was like, as long as you don't get us in trouble, she's like, So at the time, because I actually wanted her to help me with the wholesaling business, and my wife's a very introvert. So she's like, there's no way I'm calling random people,
Yeah, 100%.
you
I'm
know,
the same.
to sell me their house. She's like, absolutely not. So like, she didn't. She was like, you can do your thing. She's like, but I'm not getting involved with that.
Right.
So then once we got into the midterm rentals, like I saw like that's what she likes, like the putting properties together and stuff like that, and she just like ran with it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so she found her groove, I found mine, and so yeah.
It's incredible to have a partner that supports you. And I know that seems like that's a very obvious statement, right? But like not everyone has that. And it's incredible to have someone that you can pivot or do some things differently that you want to do in your life, and you have that support from that partner. So, and like physical support as well, not just like go get them, but also like let's work on this together, and let's work on these properties and make sure the cleaners are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you know, while taking care of the kids and homeschooling and stuff. That's phenomenal. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You have mentioned projects that have taken longer than they should, that are just either, I mean, I don't know if they're to the point where they're not profitable or project or problem projects, but like talk to us about some, either maybe a project that you have in mind where we might be able to learn something, like maybe a negative experience that you've had.
So yeah, I'm actually in the middle of one right now. Once I'm done with it, it'll still be a profitable deal on paper, but in terms of like the impact that it had on our business, I would say I wouldn't do it again, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't repeat the same cycle. It's a property that I got a really good deal on. I funded with my own capital, tried running everything myself, and just with my limited bandwidth with everything else I have going on, it wasn't properly managed, and that leads to extended time. Capital is sitting out there doing nothing essentially.
This is a flip?
It's intended to be a buy and hold.
Okay.
But now, since it's taken so long, right now the plan is to flip it, because
Right.
like I just got to get that capital back out. I think as a business owner, what I learned is like, don't take your working capital and park it somewhere that, you know, is going to take way too long, unless, right, if it's working capital, there's a difference there,
Right.
versus like capital that you can actually park and
Right.
you can put it to work, and you don't need it back, you know, and soon, right? So yeah.
So you had a lot going on, and you weren't paying as close attention to the construction side of things, so that's delayed? Or
Yes.
was it more construction than you thought it would be?
It's a little further from me too, so
it.
that's another lesson.
Yeah, so
right?
you don't want to go check on it?
Yeah. So unless you have like a team in place that's gonna be, it's more like someone that you employ, right?
Yeah.
That kind of has like the same buy-in, if you will, in that project as you do. Then I would say it needs to be more within arm's reach in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hire a GC?
Yes.
Or was it lack of monitoring the GC's progress, or was it you not allowing the GC to progress, or maybe subs, like you had some responsibility in the subs showing up and they're not showing up? Like, what did that look like?
I think one is definitely not monitoring progress, and two, initially the project took a while to get off the ground anyway, because I had to get a variance to make the deal work, right? So like,
Complicated deal to start with.
yeah. So, you know, if I had capital that I didn't need back like soon, I'd be like, you know, it probably wouldn't really matter. But it's taken way longer than I ever planned on it to take. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about this a number of times on this podcast, but just for the sake of this conversation, it was very specifically, I had rolled through 9 or 10 other houses in a same neighborhood, 100% successful, massive success, like great timing, a lot of luck, like everything goes as planned. We get to the 10th house, same contractor, same neighborhood, same deal, right? I get a little too confident, and I'm like, let's pop the top on this one, and let's add, you know, a third bedroom and another full bath and like all this other, reframe the whole, you know, second floor basically. The contractor gives me a price which is absurdly low, but I'm just like, whatever. He's just done 10 other houses for me, big, like decent size renovation projects. Like the renovations were as costly as the house was to purchase in almost all those cases, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're decent sized project. And so this one was about the same scenario. Like we purchased it for X amount, and the rehab cost was about the same. And he was like, yeah, man, I got it. I was like, cool. So he ripped off the roof, put a tarp on it, ripped off some of the framing and everything like that. And then That's it.
End of the budget.
No, I never saw him. Like I never saw him again. He just didn't show up.
Oh, wow.
And so, but even worse was like I was busy. This all comes back to my fault. I'm literally not even blaming the contractor. Like I should have been on top of it. But like I just didn't apply any pressure. Right? There was no stakes on his end. He probably had all these other jobs he needed to do. Right? And so I was like low man on the totem pole. But I also like never drove by, never called him, never checked on it. I just assumed everything was going well. And then so a few weeks later, I drive by, I still see the tarp. And I'm like, wait, have you guys been out here? And he's like, oh, yeah, we're coming out tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, cool. So then I don't think about it for 2 weeks because I believe him, you know? And then I go back 2 weeks later, still has a tarp, no difference, right? And so this actually, I'm an idiot, so it keeps going on and on. And then probably a couple months later, I'm just like, hey, man, I have to like terminate you. Can you go like get your stuff off the site? And I'd paid him a lot. Yeah. Because I trusted him. So I'd already given him like a demo draw and then another draw, which is stupid, but paid him a lot. I got him to release the house without trying anything crazy. I just released him as a tuition. I hired another contractor. His budget was 2 times the original budget. Whoa. And I already paid like a quarter of the original budget, right? And so not only did I just double the rehab cost, but then I added another 25% that I actually already spent. I still own that house today. I didn't sell it, and it's a really good rental, but man, a lot of lessons learned. And I went probably 6 months past the private money term that I had, but I called the lender weekly and told him, like, I mean, I learned when it started to affect the lender, I was on it, completely on it.
Yeah,
it was
that'll
like
put a fire under you.
Yeah, and I remember I told the lender, hey man, I have other assets I could sell. I have money in the bank. Like I can give you your money now, but if you're willing to be patient, just give me a higher rate. I'll pay more money. Let me finish the project. It's up to you. Like, I can get your money back tomorrow or whatever. And he let me finish the project, just charged me a higher rate, and we got out of it. It was fine. Successful. Still have a great relationship with the lender, but I was talking to him every couple of days to make sure, leaving him voicemails, texting him. I did not want him to ever have to call me in that scenario. And so I made sure I was always communicating with him first.
That's good.
But yeah, I'd never seen the contractor since then. Never heard of any of his projects or anything. So I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, yeah, it was. And if that would have been my first deal, I would have been out of the game.
Oh, wow.
Like, I would have been so far out of the game. But fortunately, I'd already rolled through so many other houses that were so successful. Yeah. And that had given me time to also build up this business and stuff. So I was way more squared away at that point than I was a year sooner with no transactions. I would have been out of the game for a while, I think. Yeah. So, man, so it's good, I guess, if you're gonna screw up, do it after a $70K wholesale deal and an awesome first flip and some arbitrages and stuff like that.
For sure.
We've talked about your team a little bit, which is insane that your wife can do as much as she's doing while she's also homeschooling the kids, which is just incredible.
And dealing with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get back to like the mindset thing a little bit. You had mentioned that you never feel like you've done enough. Uh-huh. That's got to be like, I can relate to some extent because you always know you can accomplish more. Mm-hmm. But to me, it comes across as not necessarily a negative thing. It's just, I just need to do more. Like, to you, does it come across as like a burden or a weight that you're not doing enough when you have a full-time job, you're successful at real estate investing and have a family?
Does it come across as
because like in what we had discussed, it seems like there's still gas in the tank. I can still do more. I need to be doing more. You feel like you need to be doing more. Is that more of like a constant pressure? Or is it more of like the positive side of things? Is like, I know I can accomplish more and we're getting there.
I think I'm working on that because more isn't always better.
Correct. That's a great point.
So I've actually, and my wife is the one that kind of like helps me be focused. And she's like, you want to do more. She's like, but if you did less and focused more of your energy in this one thing, she's like, you will feel like you're accomplishing way more, potentially with the same amount of energy, or you'll have more energy to dedicate more into that. Right. So like, she's a wise lady. And so when she kind of put that into my head, I was like, okay, so yeah, I need to shut this down. I got to, cut that out. Yeah. And so I think because I'm so like scatterbrained, right, I feel like I need to do more because I'm not gaining traction and trying to do a million things. That makes sense. Yeah. So since I think that comes with time, maturity, and focus. So since I've started to shed some things out, I've noticed a big change.
Yeah. Well, you've also built an incredible network around you, and you've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. Like you have done a lot. Like you're saying, like, I'm scatterbrained, I need to cut things. Like, you've accomplished a whole lot. And so I think that makes it a little bit easier for you to then get a little bit more focused. Because when you don't have traction and you haven't accomplished as much, then you need to do anything you can, like a scatter shot. You need to do anything you can to like get any sort of traction or success or victories.
Yeah.
But now, like, you're getting victories. You've had plenty of victories and you're doing some really cool stuff. And I think that allows you the mental peace to calm down a bit, to like to be more focused. I don't actually really like the term calm down, because if anyone hasn't noticed, like, I'm very fired up
Pretty wired.
at almost all times,
Yeah.
right? But what I mean is, like, be okay with where you're at and be focused. Like, the perfect point was more isn't always better. There's been several companies I've looked at buying outside of property management. There's been all kinds of different investment avenues. There's been so many opportunities. And often when I just sit down and think about it and unpack everything, I'm like, we have a really good company. Like, and there's still so much more we can do. Why am I going to spread myself so thin and not do what we are already doing really well, or put, a lot more focus and effort into building that, versus now start some new thing and try all these different crazy things and jeopardize things. And so, yes, I will do more things, but I am now able to focus a little bit more and understand that what we are doing now is really good. And that deserves a lot of focus and attention and care. And while eventually, yes, there are different, like, I invest in real estate and things like that. Like, there's going to be that, but I do have probably like 3 or 4 buckets that I really focus on, and everything else I need to guard that. I need to guard it really closely. Those 3 or 4 things, because there's 20 other things that me and when we see other people do and invest in, and we're like, should we? So that means a lot when you can focus and realize what you're doing is working, and it's working well, and then, like, cautiously guard what you have and then grow your future from there.
That's right. Yep.
What does your future look like? What does it look like in the next 10 years for your operations? What goals and ambitions do you have? What does your investing look like?
So at first, like, I was just trying to get to as many units as possible. Like, that was just like my sole focus, was like, get units. But now I want to really master the finance side of the business, right? So I can learn and strategically take risks and take the company to continue to grow strategically while still taking on risk, but calculated risk.
Right.
So I want to learn how to do that better. If that means bringing on more units, great. If it means maybe reducing the number of units we have and getting better units in the portfolio, then doing that.
Right.
So I think if I build on that foundation, then the company can grow as big as I want it to go.
Yeah, 100%. If it's healthy, it will. And that's if you make the right decisions. I think you're thinking about it right. In the property management world, I think a decade ago, people would talk about their unit count constantly. I manage 5,000 units. I manage 7,000 units. I manage, whatever. And it's this big ego game. It turned probably within the past decade, within the past 5 years. Fortunately, since, I've been doing it for 8 years, and it was probably around the time I got into the industry, I was kind of raised into this, we call it RPU, revenue per unit. And it's, don't focus on the unit count, focus on the revenue per unit. And you can have 500 units and have a way more profitable, successful, higher net income than 1,000 units. And so it's the same goes with investing, right? We know that. And so, like, if you're doing arbitrage or master leasing, whatever you want to call it, you could have really, and I'm sure you experience this with the amount that you have already, like, you have some that are really phenomenal. And you probably have some where you're like, maybe I should not renew that lease. Like, there's going to be a couple of those, right? And your decision to not renew that lease and then engage in a few more that are phenomenal, you might have the same unit count, but your business is going to look drastically different.
Correct.
And your stress, the amount of touches you have in it and everything like that is going to get less and less.
Exactly.
And less. Yeah.
Yep.
So what advice would you have for people who want to get started in real estate investing? Very generally speaking, we don't know their financial status or network status or anything like that, but let's just say it's Dario back in the day where you're like, hey, baby, I want to do this thing. What are the first step or two that they should take?
So when I first started going to like Dealmaker, like all the strategies work, right? Yeah. And so it's like an overwhelm of like, which one do I pick? So I think doing the work to understand who you are as a person and where you could leverage your personality, your current skill sets the most, I think that's like step one. Because ironically, like the money thing kind of works itself out, right? With enough, you guys still got to put in the work and figure that part out. But when you have a sense of alignment with the path that you're on, it just feels right, and you gain traction better. I feel like that's one. But the traction part takes time. Yes. So it's like you have to allow those first deposits, time-wise, effort. It's like you don't see a return on that, at least in my case, initially. And for me, it took several years to like really see things start to kind of slowly, go up, right? And yeah, I think had I focused like I am now and allowed time for the things that I was trying to do to materialize, like the wholesaling or the flipping, right? Mm-hmm. If I had just dedicated myself to any one of those, I'd be in a different situation now. Right. So pick something that I think aligns with who you are as a person and your current skill sets, and 2, don't deviate.
Yeah,
right?
Stick with it.
Stick with it. You got to pay your dues, right? You got to take some bruises and bumps initially to reap the reward.
Right. Yeah. And typically when we have a guest on this podcast and they say they found their first deal in 3 months, I'm surprised because that's fast.
Yeah, it is, for
right?
sure.
And so 3 months is fast. Mm-hmm. Like, what does normal look like? And in my opinion, it depends on the market, like what deals you're looking for and stuff like that. But at least 6 months to a year, mm-hmm. I would assume. Like, and that's if you're taking like really good action and building relationships and things like that's moving, right? That's a good timeline. Yep. So yeah, definitely that's great advice. Figure out what you want to do, which is very important, because I think a lot of people do go back and forth between all these different opportunities. They don't stick with something, and so they do a lot of everything but really nothing in the long run, right? And I would bet, like, again, I tried marketing for, I don't know, like 6 months or so. Who knows? Like, I could have went to 8 months and it could have taken off.
That's right.
I just don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I think the idea is to at least give it a shot. Like with what we do, the marketing we do for this company, it's very hard to understand exactly how effective it is, especially when you just get started, where you don't have a whole lot of analytics and stuff like that. Yeah. So I told myself that we're going to, like, there's certain marketing campaigns and things that we're doing where I'm like, we do this for a year before we look at the analytics. We just don't care. Just do it for a year, because the analytics will be depressing the first year.
Yeah.
So just do it, put it out, try to make some good traction, try to add value, try to help people, do the right thing, which you think will benefit the community. Yeah. And if you do that, just do it for a year. And then start checking, right?
100%. Yeah,
so commit to it, stick to it.
If I could flip that question back to you, how long did it take you to feel like you were getting some traction with like peak with it?
I would say about a year. It was largely because I needed to learn the industry. Well, I guess it's same as true as real estate investors. Like, if we're talking to people who are like interested, but they don't really know they probably don't know a whole lot about it, right? They need to learn. So for me, I had to learn the whole industry, which took maybe about 6 to 8 months to learn that in real estate investing. And during that, I was building my relationship, so I wouldn't have to do that afterward. So I was taking a lot of hits on my ego, which again, I'm fine with, doesn't bother me. But like, I would meet up with investors, let's say 3 months in, and I would tell them I own a management company. And I wasn't taking clients at the time, because we shouldn't have, right? I didn't know what I was doing. But I would tell them I'm I'm starting a management company, and this is kind of what it looks like. And then they would ask me about like an investment property, and I wouldn't know the terminology. They would mention like DSCR, or they'd mention like some portfolio loans, or like just different like cash flows or tenant issues or evictions. And I'm like, I don't know what some of that is, right now at that time, right? And so a lot of deer and headlight, a lot of like kind of hits on that. But it was a year of going through that and having these meetings and just trying to learn and ask questions, very similar to these conversations of just asking questions and trying to learn about people's background and how they got where they are, what decisions they made, and like how they got into investing and why, and what did that do for them, and why did they make certain decisions that they made, good or bad. And then that allowed me to understand property management, real estate investing, everything like that. And so about a year in, I felt comfortable taking on clients. We started taking on clients. We knew legally, ethically, morally, we knew what we were doing. We were doing the right thing. We did very well with those clients, and then word spread like wildfire, and we were able to be selective with our clients after that, largely because once we got these clients, my strategy was to hire people who knew a lot more than me with a lot more experience. So I got on a very experienced accounting team. I hired a very experienced property managers, one at a time as soon as I could afford them. And they brought all this knowledge and experience. I provided the culture and our mission and our vision and our values and the ethics that we wanted to operate by, brought the people on that could get behind those that had the experience. And then it was just a perfect match. But I would say it was about a year for me to kind of get up and running in that. But about a year in, I started buying property. Like I jumped right into it and I invested in property and then got a good amount the second year in, and then have since been buying property on and off. So.
Okay. And I saw those pictures hanging on the wall when I came in. Are those were those some your first clients, or are those what's the story behind the property?
It varies. It's just various clients that we have. So it's properties that we have under management, whether it's like the medical building, the larger one, or the single families or the small multifamilies that we manage. Okay. It's just, you'll see them all throughout the office of different properties we manage. Most of those we've managed for quite some time. They're legacy properties that most of our team can probably walk around and tell you the address of each of them. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I do something similar. Like in my office, I have a painting of the first flip.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The first wholesale.
That's cool.
It's an ugly house, the first wholesale, obviously, because it was like run down and beat up, but it's still like a little trophy, you know? Yeah.
My buddy is a developer. He's downstairs in this building, but you go in his conference room and they have, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but like, kind of like clothesline, like it clips, and the pictures are clipped to like a yarn or string or something, but it's all throughout the conference room, and it's all these different projects they've done.
Cool.
And they have news articles about them like all throughout the office. It's really you could see like over the past 20 years just a timeline of what they've accomplished and how they've evolved and stuff. I think it means a lot. Like, that says a lot about your culture. Like, you start hiring people in-house and running a larger business operation, they're really going to be interested in that culture, and they're going to want to uphold all the work that you've put in, assuming you make a good hire. They're going to want to uphold all that work and carry that with them and throughout the rest of the team that you build. So it's good that you have stuff like that.
Yeah, that caught my attention. That's
awesome, man. How can people find you?
You can email me, Dario@cruzcapitalinvestment.com. I'm on Facebook too, Dario Cruz. Our website, downtowncorporatehousing.com. Yeah, those are pretty much the main avenues. Yep.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll put them up on the show notes and make sure we put them on the screen so cool. Our audience can see them. Awesome. Any final thoughts?
Man, I'm super pumped to see, to know that you also took you like that year to gain traction.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes if you feel like you're behind or what have you, like if you're taking the right actions and just hearing that come from you, like a successful business owner, like gives me the confidence to just keep on trucking. Sure. And like I met one of your employees out there, Jay, and cool. he saw me kind of like lost. He's like, "Hey man, can I help you?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." Like, to see that like your employees have that attitude. So he brought me to the door and told me like, go up there, and you have a good thing going on here. So congratulations for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And another great point is like, everyone wants to compare themselves to other people who are quote unquote successful or whatever, and you can be hard on yourself. But like that, I should also mention, like, if we're talking about that first year was 100-hour weeks. Like, so it was a year and 100-hour weeks. It was like learning the entire property management industry, learning as much as I could about obviously property management and real estate investing and building the network. And so, no, it's not easy. And it's the same thing you have to do in real estate investing that you've seen and that others are finding out, is like, it might look like people can just go out there and build relationships and find these deals, but it's hard. It's hard. And that's why not everyone is walking around that's multi-millionaires, right? Like, very few people will put in the work or have the consistency or persistency to keep doing the marketing, to keep doing the thing, and betting on themselves and being willing to take risks and stuff like that. But it's people like you and other people that we have on the podcast and people at meetup groups and other people in our community that are making a difference, because they're willing to do that, and they're willing to make the sacrifice for themselves, their families, their kids, and whatever generation they're thinking about when it comes to their legacy. So I really appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story about your background, upbringing, real estate investing. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Steven. Appreciate it. Likewise, sir.